Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario, coming to you from the deep south in the heart of Birmingham, Alabama. Really not the heart, the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama. And today I'm going to be talking about the difference between these two guys, the Nagaoka MP110 and the Ortofon Blue. So I've had both of these cartridges for quite a while now. I have an RT85 and an RT85N. I did a video some time ago when I bought an RT85N that comes with this MP110 for my living room. In my listening room where I'm sitting at now, I have the RT85 that has the blue cartridge on it. And I really like the sound of this one since I've had it. I play a lot of new records in this room that I'm sitting in. I listen to a lot of jazz records, the Blue Note stuff, a lot of the acoustic sound stuff, the new 75th anniversary, all that stuff I listen to in here, and I like the sound of this. It gives you a lot of detail. It tracks well. The RT85N I have in my living room, it has this MP110 on there. I'm going to talk about the differences in a little more detail today because I've had a chance to now. I've had them both for quite a while, and so I've kind of learned a lot about them and what I like and what I don't like. And I wanted to share that with you guys. And also I want to hear your comments. So please leave your comments about your experience between this Ortofon Blue and the MP110 or any of the other in these families, because I really want to hear your experience with those. I'm going to give you my experience with these two specifically today. And I've had quite a while to play with them. So first of all, the RT85N, RT85, I talked about the differences. Basically, you've got the RT85 comes with the blue, RT85 Fluance comes with the MP110. Tracking angle is the big difference between these as far as how the turntables are set up. So from my understanding, the RT85N has a 0.5 millimeter higher tone arm that allows you to get that 31-degree tracking angle on this MP110, where it's a 0.5 millimeter lower with this Ortofon Blue that tracks at 20 degrees. Now that's an 11-degree difference. So when we're talking about tracking angle, and I'm going to go into this in a little more detail, I've done some reading on this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts again on this. It depends on what kind of stylus you have as to how important that tracking angle is. Now, all records are cut at a modulation angle, a vertical modulation angle. And that just means it's cut at a certain angle when the lathe cuts the record. Usually it's between 15 to 22 degrees. That's a 7-degree difference. A little bit less than the 11-degree difference between these two. These two are elliptical styluses. So if you could look at each of these closely, you have basically 4 different types of styluses. You've got a conical, which is more like a round, think of like a ballpoint pen almost, riding in that groove. You have an elliptical, which is what these are, and that's going to be a little bit finer of a stylus, and the way it goes a little bit deeper into the record, a little more detail there. Hyperelliptical, it gets even narrower, and then a shibata is almost like a needle, very, very narrow. It goes down into that bottom of the groove. And from what I'm reading, with all the different people writing articles and their experience in dealing with different types of styluses, the narrower it is, the more important that tracking angle gets as to when you start to get distortion and excessive wear. And so when you've got an elliptical, it's a little bit wider than a hyperelliptical or a shibata. So you have a little bit more forgiveness in there and how it tracks into that groove. Now, arguably, you'll get better detail with like a shibata. It should sound better, but again, your tracking angle is much more important. So in regards to these, I've been able to move these back and forth between the two and have no issues with distortion whatsoever. They play fine, they sound okay. I don't know how that would affect long-term the wear on these or the wear on the record. So I don't have them flipped for very long. I just use them for comparisons, moving them around. This stays on the RT85 for the most of the time. This stays on the RT85N for most of the time. But I do like to move them back and forth to compare. And this one always has a better detail sound to it. This one here has a weird issue, and I do want to talk about this because I contacted Fluance and got them to send me free of charge. They sent me another cartridge and another stylus because I was getting a weird static issue, which I still have. That happens only with new records. I've finally, after playing, experiencing this issue, it always seems to be a lot of times with the Blue Note Tone Poets and Classics new. Take them out of the wrap, out of the sleeve, anti-static sleeve. I wipe them down with an anti-static cloth, clean them, and put them on the turntable. And it seems like this guy doesn't like that all the time because right before it hits the record, it gets a static pop, static crackles, and then it'll do it for a minute, and then it usually just smooths out and it's fine. Every once in a while, as it goes across the record, I'm listening to it, I'll get that again. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough, especially when I drop this on the record at the beginning, where I get kind of a static discharge or something. Now, with the Ortofon Blue, I never get that, ever. When I could take the Blue Note right out of the sleeve and drop it right on the turntable in here, and I drop the Ortofon Blue, I'd never get static issues. So I don't know if that's an issue with how these interact with the actual Fluance turntable, or if this is actually an issue with the MP110 and the cartridge. And I went online and did some research, seeing if other people had issues with static issues with this, and there were some people that complained about this, and it wasn't primarily with the Fluance turntables. People had other types of turntables with this MP110, and they were complaining that they were getting static issues. So if you've had that issue, let me know. I'm interested to find out. For that reason, and I think this one has maybe a little bit warmer sound. It does work better with more worn records that aren't so perfect. This one's a little more forgiving. This one, you'll hear every little detail. If there's imperfections, you will hear it a little bit more with the Blue. But the Blue has such a really nice detail to it that when I'm listening to new records, especially here in this room, I listen to a lot of the new Blue Note records and acoustic sounds, things like that. And this sounds so good with that. I think this sounds fantastic with new records. One thing I do want to experiment with is the Ortofon Red. And so I do want to be able to put that on the RT85N, see how that sounds. I'm also thinking that the difference between that 31 degree and 20 degree is 11 degrees difference. If I could somehow kind of half that out by putting maybe a thick mat on the turntable, and that would actually bring this back up a little bit, that would give me maybe back into that 25 degrees versus maybe 30 degrees. I don't know exactly how much it would change that. I know it would change it some just by the physics of it. So, if this is tracking at 31 degrees and it's supposed to be at 20 degrees, and I put a mat on the actual turntable and it brings it up a little bit, then it's going to bring the tracking angle back closer to where it's supposed to be. So I want to hear your thoughts on that, because I'm thinking of buying an Ortofon Red that I can put in here, which would work perfect. I could interchange them out, but also I could put the red on the RT85N and maybe put a thick mat on there, cork mat or something, that would raise it up and get this back closer to the spec it's supposed to be at. And then I would be able to just go ahead and leave that on there and just eliminate the MP110 for the most part, just because I'm just not totally happy with this in the settings that I'm using them in. And again, I have two different systems in both rooms, a different system in each room. So I'm taking that in consideration, and of course moving them, flipping them back and forth around, just so that I can hear the difference. And so in this listening room here, I've got the RT85N going through a Shipmani into my Yamaha HS8s. Again, it sounds fantastic with new records, which is what I listen to a lot in this room. In the other room, I'm going into a Denon in there. I've got an RT85N using a Rolls preamp going into a Denon receiver with some tower speakers, and I have JBLs in there and Pioneers in there. I can flip between the two. And this guy does sound okay. Again, it's not terrible, but I'm not happy with let's talk about the wear. The wear on both of these. That's important too. This guy, you can buy a replacement stylus for this for 60 to 75 bucks. This one costs about 150 bucks to replace the stylus. However, this will go for 800 hours playtime. This one only goes for about 200 hours, so it's a 4-time difference. This one I haven't heard any changed so far. This one I just changed out, just bought a new $60 stylus because I probably got to that 200-hour mark. This is a bonded stylus. This is a nude stylus. So that's the difference between these two. This is a better made stylus than this guy. This one wears out quicker. And I like the fact that this would last a lot longer. I don't have to worry about replacing it so often. Of course, it's not a problem to change these out. They come off easy. They snap on easy. So that's not really a problem. But I think you introduce, whenever you have to change out and put a new stylus on, you're taking a chance that the new stylus you're getting is a good stylus, that kind of thing. So to me, once you have a good playing stylus on there like this blue, the less I have to change it out, the better for me. So again, comparing them side by side, I prefer the blue. If I had to do it all over again, I would probably buy the RT85 and put that in my living room. And I wouldn't have gone with the MP110. I wouldn't have gone with the RT85N personally, now after all my experience. So that is pretty much my comparison. Again, I want to hear your thoughts. So please leave your comments. I like to learn. You know, there's a great community out there. A lot of people have a lot of experience with a lot of different cartridges. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on being able to put that Ortofon red onto the RT85N with the tracking angle difference, and maybe putting that mat on there to try to correct, bring that up a little bit to bring the tracking angle back in closer. I'd like to hear your thoughts, because I haven't been able to find a definitive, I guess I would need some way to measure that, like what it's actually, how much it's actually changing that tracking angle by adding that thick mat on there. You know, the cork ones or one of the thick acrylic ones, would that actually raise it up enough to make it where it gets close enough to where maybe I'm not getting excessive wear on this or not wearing my records out. And again, I just don't know how much difference, since it's an elliptical stylus, how much is that really going to hurt me having that difference. Now, I think that, you know, a 7-degree difference, since that's your the way that it's cut, you have that variation already, 15 to 22. That's a 7-degree difference. And most people with turntables under $1,000 aren't going to be fine-tuning their tracking angles. So they're going to be somewhere in the middle of that. So there obviously is some play there. And again, I think with an elliptical stylus, you've got even more play because it's not quite as fine. So you can have a little bit difference there, and it's not going to groove out your record or wear your stylus out. And you know, it would be different if it was a hyper elliptical or a Shibata, where it's very, very narrow and goes really deep into that groove. And if it gets out, it's going to distort and things like that. I think it's going to be more important. So I'm going to be experimenting with that. And I'll do a video on that when I do, because I am going to buy an Ortofon red and put it on my spare bayonet here. That way I can stick it on here in this room. But I also want to be able to take it and put it on the RT85N as well and compare, and then see which one I like better, the red, Ortofon red, or this MP110. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. If you like these videos, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you later on. Happy listening.